Welcome to Not What I Thought. I'm Erika.
I'm Yolanda.
And I'm Becca. We're therapists, entrepreneurs, and perfectly imperfect humans.
We first met during a business owner retreat where we became fast friends because we're not afraid to be real and ask the hard questions about life. What we thought it would be like, how messy it actually is, and the courage it takes to create the life we want.
We continue to build our friendship and personal growth through our own retreats. We find the deepest connection in sharing our struggles and finding what we have in common rather than what divides us.
We're breaking down hard topics on our podcast and together have conversations about what it takes to find real talk, real support, and real rest for professional women. We're glad you're here. Join us on your favorite podcast platform.
Today, I want to talk about how self-compassion isn't what I thought it was.
So tell us what you thought and how it's different.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one, but when I first heard this word of self-compassion, there was a small part of me that was like, my curiosity was piqued. But there was also this really big part of me that was like, what the hell is that? Like, what? What? Growing up military, I met a friend in middle school. We had both moved to Germany, like the summer before our like sixth grade year, I think. And I remember having a conversation with Mandy, like, gosh, did you even realize that some people don't actually go to college after they finish high school? Is that even allowed? And that's kind of how I felt about self-compassion when I first heard about it. I was like, what? That just sounds really soft and squishy, and says the soft and squishy feelings girl. But I'm like, is that even allowed? Like, what is this?
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that because, I was thinking maybe you felt judgy towards it, but not really. More just like, is that a thing? How can that exist? Like, what is this? How can this be?
Yeah. And like, what would happen in this world if we all practice self-compassion? We'd just be walking around being, I don't know, soft, and like nothing would get done. And, like, I have a well-honed itty-bitty shitty committee that helps me get things done.
So what would it even look like if you could do that with kindness?
Right.
Get stuff done with kindness.
Right. And so I was really confronted with this when I was completing my Daring Way certification. So for all of us who are familiar with Dr. Brene Brown and her work and her research, part of what she pulls in is self-compassion and self-compassion from Kristin Neff's work and her research. And so, I was like holding it at arm's length, but then I realized, and I had the opportunity to hear Dr. Neff talk at one of our Daring Way events. I was like, well, there's some research, like research makes it official, right? So maybe I explore this a little more. And then the next thing I knew, I was flying out to California to Esalen to attend a self-compassion retreat with Kristin Neff and Chris Germer, her partner in this work. And it's been life-changing.
In what ways life-changing?
Well, we only have a short period of time. So I think realizing, one, that not only do we have an opportunity, I would dare say the responsibility of being kind to ourselves the way that we would to someone else that we care a lot about who's experiencing struggle. It has allowed me to love myself more, and it has carried me through some really hard times into courage and bravery in my life in ways that have surprised me.
Like, what helped you get over the barrier of the squishiness? Like, even saying like loving yourself, right? That feels a little squishy in a good way, but
yeah, I think giving it a try, and this is this concept of self-compassion I bring into the therapy room regularly. Like 99.9. I don't know that there's a client that I meet with that we don't talk about self-compassion at some point. So I think it was like the teeny tiny bit of curiosity, and then, well, what could it hurt to give it a try? And that practice of giving it a try, and new things are foreign and they feel weird and wonky and like uncomfortable. But again, there was just enough of that, like, oh, wow, this is different, for me to continue the practice. So maybe we should talk about what self-compassion is. Like, should we kind of wrap the process around this practice? According to Dr. Kristen Neff, there are three steps to self-compassion. The first one is mindfulness, and mindfulness is like pay attention, and it is like paying attention to the moments of suffering that we experience, right? So what we tend to do as a society in general, I think, and I know for myself for sure, whether it's with physical pain and or emotional pain, is that we shove it down, build this brick wall to distance ourselves from it because it feels like too much. And one of the reasons that we wall it off is because we're afraid. Well, I'll speak for myself. One of the reasons that I wall it off is because I'm afraid that if I acknowledge it, then I'll get sucked into the black hole of the pain and the experience and like the swampland and not be able to get out. And the mindfulness piece is that middle path between those two. Like, I can pay attention to my suffering in the moment, things that are really difficult, and know that it's not going to last forever. So then the second step of self-compassion is a common humanity. Like, I am not alone. I think a lot of times, and again, I'll speak for myself, a lot of times when I'm in struggle, when I'm in difficulty, part of my narrative is like, well, if you didn't do so much to screw things up all the time, like it's only you that are so bad, so wrong, so broken, so weak, that you're having this problem. Other people don't have this problem. And the common humanity piece is we all struggle. Like, that's part of being human. None of us gets out of life without some struggle. And then the third component of the self-compassion is to be a kind friend to ourselves, like to speak to myself in a way that I would talk to the two of you. And I don't recall ever saying to either one of you, would you just suck it up and stop being such a whatever, lazy, good for nothing, like
so whiny.
So stop whining. Good gravy. Yeah.
And there's the way that this is like very subtly revolutionary or like subtly countercultural. If we have these ideas that in order to achieve, in order to be acceptable, in order to like have a place in society or whatever, that you have to be hard or harsh or judgy or whatever, towards ourselves. And so it's a really, like I said, subtle shift, this internal stuff of being mindful and recognizing your common humanity, and then talking to yourself like you would talk to a friend. It seems so small in terms of what the change is, but has, clearly for you, and I think what the rest of us will talk too about, like, pretty far-reaching impact.
Yeah. And what we know neurobiologically and through the research and stuff is that a practice of self-compassion engages our safety network, our internal safety network. The harsh critic continues to engage the fight, flight, freeze, threat response.
Right.
So we're not doing ourselves any favors there.
Yeah, because we need another thing to add to all of that hypersensitivity, right? And our whole bodies being on edge all the time.
Right. For real.
So I wonder, Yolanda, when you started being more compassionate to yourself, did you notice if any of those old stories like came true? Right. So before, maybe the fear would tell you if you're kind to yourself, then you won't be able to get things done, or you'll, I don't know what, be unlovable, or you'll fail at everything, or like, did any of that
Right.
stuff turn out to be true?
No, the exact opposite. I mean, think about it. Who do we want as a boss, or who do we want to coach us? Someone who's super critical and harsh and shaming, or someone who reminds us of our capacity, of how we can do hard things and how we're not alone in doing those things. And, like, you've got this.
Yeah, I think, again, the subtlety that Becca was talking about, in we can still be motivating. We can motivate ourselves to move forward, right? Without having to be a drill sergeant or,
Yeah.
use that harsh language as the way to get to the next thing.
Yeah. And if you think of, like, the definition of compassion is the desire to alleviate suffering, sometimes self-compassion feels like warm and fuzzy and nurturing. And sometimes it's more of like that fierce mama bear, like, this is what we're going to do because this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
And it'll be hard, but we can get through it.
Mm-hmm. In terms of like alleviating or preventing our own suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, I will do this, or no, I won't. I can't do
Mm-hmm.
that other thing. Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm. It's like the yin and yang of compassion and self-compassion. So what do each of you think about this whole idea of self-compassion? Do you have a self-compassion practice? What are your thoughts when you hear the phrase self-compassion?
I mean, I'll definitely say I was similar to you, but probably a little bit more judgy than than you were about I think kind of the language around it, which I think, like, you're describing it as squishy. I think I've always thought of it as like flowery,
Mm-hmm.
like, just feels a little bit not tangible, and that's hard for my brain to like wrap around that. But I think I know Kristen Neff tells a story about being on an airplane and her child, causing or acting out, I think is what it was. And, she related it to that. And that really the answer for her was to have self-compassion for herself, right? Rather than worry about what the other passengers on the plane were thinking about her or judging her or her parenting, and et cetera, et cetera. And so I remember being in gymnastics class with my daughter. She was moving from the gymnastics class that I went in with her and did all the things with her to where she was going to go independently, be in a class. And I mean, she panicked. She was not participating. She was just standing at the door. And, it was one of those moments of like being, a new mom or a newer mom. She's probably like 3. Of like, what do I do? There's a whole room of other parents sitting with me, and we're all observing this behavior happening, and how do I step in and how do I intervene? And I think at one point, and I was also super pregnant, so that I'm sure did not help now experiencing all the things. But yeah, at one moment I had this almost experience of like an out of body type experience of looking down on myself, being like, but you're a therapist, you should know how to do all the things, and you should know how to perfectly handle this situation. And I did not know. And so I think I was like, oh, like airplane thing. Like, I think I get it now.
And how did you feel? How was that for you when you were like when it clicked?
I think, I mean, it was certainly powerful, and I still did not know how to move. So it's a challenge. And I think, like you said, it's a ongoing practice of sometimes slowing down, even the mindfulness piece, just acknowledging like, why am I telling myself I should know how to do something because I'm a therapist? That's, not helpful.
And how somehow that means that your child is never going to behave in ways that you would like
Never.
them not to.
He's never done anything since then, so I don't know.
I'm thinking about how the journey to self-compassion for me has been a lot about undoing family patterns, and really with more emotional things, right? So I don't know, like I was always a good student, but I don't think I had a really harsh inner critic voice that was like pushing me to be perfectionistic in my schoolwork or whatever. I just was kind of lucky that my brain functions in such a way that school was reasonably easy for me, but over the last maybe 8 to 10 years or so, I've really been on this journey of becoming more compassionate with my own emotional responses, because I think I would be harsh with myself or embarrassed or shut down or whatever if I felt angry or if I couldn't control my emotions and other people could see that I was sad or upset or I didn't like something. And I definitely felt the sense that if some situation wasn't working for me, that what I was supposed to do is like bite my tongue and hold it all in and like not say anything that would make another person uncomfortable. And so that meant that I just, held a lot in and then had these, shame stories about like, why was I having this response and why can I not just let this go? And why can I not just, it's fine. Always making excuses for other people's behavior because it wasn't okay for me to really feel anything except like be happy and easygoing and, friendly or something.
Want less and need less.
Yes. All of those things. Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, the real transformational thing has been that common humanity part, where I can sit with myself and go, okay, this thing happened. I'm like, of course you're feeling upset about it. It almost helps if I don't have to do this quite as much anymore, but at the beginning, I definitely had to think about if this happened to someone else, because I couldn't do it with myself. Right. But like, if this happened to someone else, then yes, the normal response would be that someone would be angry or annoyed or sad or feeling left out or whatever. So like, you're just as human as anyone else. Of course you would feel that way. Like that was just so like I was saying before, just subtly transformational. And I think in a way it has helped me to be, well, one, to stop gaslighting myself, because that's ultimately what ended up happening is a situation would happen and I would feel something. And then I would tell myself, no, don't feel that way. This isn't something that's worth getting upset about or whatever. So I was constantly in this game of denying my own emotions. And I think that I have become a kinder, more compassionate, more patient person because of that. And I think there's this truth that we maybe always are a little kinder to other people than we are towards ourselves. But even still, I'm just making stuff up here, right? But if we think about it on some kind of a number scale, and you're always going to be like 2 degrees kinder to someone else than you are to yourself, still, the more kind you can be to yourself, it increases, how much you're able to be really compassionate and understanding with other people. And that's been a nice benefit too, right? Especially if some of the old stories where you can't engage in this way or else people won't like you, and maybe not in that exact moment, but overall big picture, the more that I'm kind with myself, I'm actually able to be even more kind and even more patient with other people. And that, comes back around to better relationships and more love.
Yeah, I have noticed the same thing for myself, Becca. And to kind of pull in something that you said a minute ago, Erika, like there's so much that when our threat system is activated, like your brain is just like, do something. And that's one of the reasons, like my go-to is over-functioning or perfectionism, right? Or like if there's a threat feeling in a relationship, it's like, be right over being in a relationship, like those are my maladaptive ways of working through those things until I started practicing self-compassion as a way of doing something else, right? So like that being with myself fulfills my brain's desire, like do something. And when I can be mindful and present with myself in that way and calm myself to say, you know what, sweetheart, it's okay. We're going to get through this. You're not alone. It's okay to take a breath. It's okay to pause. It's okay to not rush into the next thing. It's okay that it's not perfect. You're human. We're human. We're not supposed to be perfect.
There's ways that this benefits us in our work and family and professional lives as well, right? Even just that, thinking about what's happening in our nervous system, that the more that we can stay in a place that is safety, then our brains are open, that we can be creative, that we can be connecting, that we can ask for help, that we can like engage in collaboration with other people like that. And that's the kind of countercultural part, right? Because we would think that we have to be this like harsh and exacting, and that's how we're going to get results maybe in a professional setting. And that if we were to stop and really be kind to ourselves and let ourselves slow down, maybe let yourself get up and take a walk or sit and meditate for a second if everything seems overwhelming. It seems like you shouldn't do that because then you're like not being productive, right? But it's exactly that opens up the space for creativity and collaboration with other people and really problem solving stuff.
That's been my experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a fail-safe, it's not like, ooh, put on your self-compassion hat and everything, all the problems go away.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, Kristen F really emphasizes like, you don't practice self-compassion to like, as some kind of secret hack, right? It is, you practice self-compassion to calm your system and so that you can be a presence for yourself, a support for yourself. Hard things are still going to happen, and we're still going to suffer and go through difficult things. And, it's not like telling myself that I'm strong and capable is like some kind of magic wand. I will say, though, that I have also kind of linked the 3 steps of the self-compassion that I mentioned before with a kind self-touch, because as mammals, we're connected, we're wired for like that physical connection and that physical touch, and we can offer that to ourselves as well. And so that can be like a hand on the heart, or because we hold emotions in our gut, like a hand on the gut, holding our own hand, giving ourselves a hug, putting our hands on our cheeks like we would with a small child. So like my instinct now, like my go-to, I will find myself with my hand on my heart almost unconsciously. Like I come to an awareness like, oh, my hand is there, and like, oh, okay. And then I check in with like, yeah, there's those words of loving kindness. Like, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this.
And I see it.
That's where I have definitely over the years started thinking about it, self-compassion as a gift we can give ourselves in terms of providing our own corrective experiences. Like everything that, Yolanda, you said you tell yourself is like, oh, that's really something I would have loved to hear, from another person, or definitely, family of origin type of stuff. And, we can ask other people for that. We can work relationally with other people, but we can also just help ourselves get there and notice that and kind of sit in that, like, oh, it feels so good.
Yeah. We come by that itty bitty shitty committee, honestly. Like that, I mean, our inner critic is usually some kind of version of what we grew up with.
I was just thinking about this connection of how we learn and being open to learning and working with other people. And, Yolanda, as you were talking about self-compassion, it's not just like a productivity hack or something like that. Definitely is not the right approach for why you want to do it, or why we think that you should. And also in the business coaching work that I've been doing, the thing that just connected for me as you were talking is like, oh, I think this is a difference in maybe the attitudes that I see when people ask questions. Because sometimes people will come with a question about a particular topic, and it's almost like they're angry that they don't know, and angry at me or the other business coaches that they haven't, how have I not been taught this already? I don't know, right? But if we look at it from like there's probably some like lack of self-compassion happening there, and some shame and some internal judgment, and so they're kind of coming out guns blazing, and then it's actually harder to take in the information. But when someone is coming from a place of a calm nervous system and there's just some curiosity, right? Of like, oh, there's this thing I don't understand yet. Can you explain to me how this keyword research that I did, like, what do I do with that when I go to try to do SEO on my website? Like some of the things are just, the answer's fairly straightforward, or figuring out your fee is just like pretty straightforward math, but it makes it so hard for us to learn and take in when we're coming at it from that place of threat, or when we're fighting with our own like internal judgments and scripts and stuff. It's like everything is going to be harder. And then I also think, to the point of this not being a productivity hack, is like, you're not as happy. It's more miserable for you when you're spending all of your time and so much of your energy like fighting that perfectionistic script.
Yeah. It takes a lot of energy to be hyper vigilant all the time.
Mm-hmm.
When kind of stepping back and reminding ourselves of these systems, and like, it's not a productivity hack, because that's a reminder of like the capitalist system that we're part of, that tells us that somehow we should know the answer to all of these things by what, I don't know, osmosis, or like there's some divine light that comes down when you decide you're going to do something new, that you have all the answers right there, like, and it's a beautiful reminder of what it is to be human.
Or maybe even the like capitalistic messaging that it's a waste of your time to spend being creative, or it's a waste of your time to spend learning something new, because that doesn't like directly translate to some kind of monetary value or something. So then we get frustrated that I have to spend time doing this thing, or being still. Or any other thoughts you want to summarize for us, Yolanda?
Yeah, well, I used to think that self-compassion was this really squishy, mushy, like, excuse for people's poor behaviors and inefficient functioning, especially my own. And now I know that there's actual research behind this, and like, we just are human beings. We're just human, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So what does your heart know to be true?
My heart knows that being my own worst critic is exhausting, but exquisite kindness towards myself. So this is the way that I describe it in my book. I call it exquisite kindness. It gives me motivation and security to just be in the world, flaws and all, and be able to know that I have my own back through the hard things in life. And it makes me a nicer person to myself and the people around me. How about you, Becca? What does your heart know to be true?
My heart knows that self-compassion makes me a better human, and that helps me enjoy my life more. I also know that being kinder to myself has made me kinder towards others. And I really believe that you can't really guide someone deeper than you've gone yourself. So if I want to be a source of kindness and compassion in the world and to the people around me, that has to start with me and how I treat myself. What about you, Erika?
My heart knows that self-compassion, it's really been part of my healing process, just overall. It serves as a corrective experience that I can give myself like any time of the day, anytime that I need it. And it really helps me to feel grounded and like, I just know I'm going to be okay.
So beautiful.